Well, hey guys, welcome to the creature feature for today. We actually got a double header for today's segment because they're pretty identical in their care with just a few small changes. This little guy here is Yo-Yo, and Yo-Yo is called an African Fat-Tail Gecko. Comes from Africa, and as we can see here, the big fat tail. We did talk about this one on our studio segment because they are pretty easy to take care of and one of the more popular reptile pets for beginners. As far as setup, when they're little, we actually have a little guy here. Let me put Yo-Yo back up in his cage just for a moment. This is from my friend over at Jenny's Terrarium. She's a breeder. So this is just a little one. He's a juvenile, so I think he's about 9 months old, give or take. I'd have to double check with her. She breeds some amazing geckos. And the nice thing with the fat tails is out of the egg, they are typically very calm and handleable, whereas the leopard geckos can be a little bit more jumpy. So from a standpoint of a beginner, these guys might be a little bit easier for a younger child than an older child could probably deal with the leopard gecko. Problem with these guys though too is they are needing a little bit more humidity, so that adds a little bit of work. So humidity being the water that we use to moisten and set them up. So let me put the little guy back in his little cage here. Don't want to stress him out too much. But when you're setting these guys up, for most people, they're going to use either something like a 10-gallon or a 50-gallon tank. Now you're going to want to make sure you obviously have a secure lid on there, not only to make sure it doesn't get out, but more so any other pets or children aren't getting in there causing problems as well. For the leopard gecko, because they need humidity, we're using this tank a little bit coarser, what's called cocoa fiber. It's a cocoa husk that's been chopped up, or you can buy it a little bit thinner like this. So you pour that all on the bottom, and that way you can mist it. It's not going to mold like aspen wood chips do that you use with hamsters and all that kind of stuff. So this will hold the humidity a little bit better. Basic setup, you want to have about a third of the enclosure set up for heat, because they don't need any lights being nocturnal, but they do need heat being from Africa. So we use this to give them belly heat. A light on top being nocturnal again isn't needed to provide a basking spot. They're just going to get it from the belly. So biggest thing when you're using a heat pad though, because this thing can max out at like 200 degrees or something silly like that, you need a heat controller. Part of it plugs into your wall. You got a little probe. You're going to run this probe into the tank, and you want to put it where that heat pad is on the warm side, about ½ an inch to an inch just off of it, so where that little gecko is going to be sitting. And you can adjust it here to the temperature and see what temperature we wanted. And these guys are going to be around 85, 88 degrees temperature, so it won't like that. And you're also going to need to have a temp tracker, like a little reader, to make sure your temperatures are all fine. And that's one of the crucial things. When you go out and get a reptile, you're not just buying a dog, picking up a dog bowl, dog food in a dog house, and you're ready to go. A lot of these need temperature, humidity controlled environments set up for them. So it takes days, sometimes even weeks of proper setup and planning to make sure your home is ready and that enclosure home is ready for the animal that you're bringing in there. So once you've got your heat, you've got your dirt substrate, you're going to want to have your water dish for them, a little hide that we usually put 2 hides, one on the cool side, one on the warm side, so they have an option of being able to go through there because they're regulating their temperature. They're not really cold-blooded, they're ectothermic, so they control their temperature by going into the warmer areas to warm up or into the cool areas to cool down. They can't sweat or shiver like we do to control our temperature, so that's why we have to do it for them by using some of these devices. So and then you can add just some pretty stuff, like we decked this one out a little bit more with some accessories, a little plant in there to make it look a little nicer. But we'll step over and take a quick look at the leopard gecko and see how they're set up just a little bit differently.